viste? Ya. You're mine now.
You're mine.
Someone have the time?
6:16.
6:16, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. If I could have a roll call. Pass the bill. Just ask to call everybody's name.
Okay. Celina Costabella. Adrián Domínguez. Rodolfo Guajardo.
Present.
Armando Garza, presente. Joe Barón. Okay. Jeffrey.
Present.
Dave Akers. Félix.
Present.
Y Rafael Tabú.
Okay. We have quorum. All right, let's go ahead and move on to item number 2, general citizens communication. Do we have anything, anybody filled out card for citizen comments? No comments. I'll move on to item.
Jeff, I'd like to speak on
Go
an
ahead.
item, so I'd like to sign up for that if there needs to be, if I need to. That's
Okay.
item
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
7.2. 7.1.
Item 7.1?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and, you want to speak at this moment? Or would
No,
like
I
to
do,
reserve
whenever
for
you
the-
get to it.
Okay, we'll do that. Then moving on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of August the 14th. There was no quorum for the month of September. So, if y'all want to look at those minutes, and I'll entertain a motion. We have a motion and a second.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes. Motion, one, yeah, motion.
Okay.
Ms. Selena. Motion, right?
Yes.
There's been a request to move some items up. Before I jump into staff reports or communication, is there any question or concern? We'd like to move up item number 7, number 2, is that correct? 1. Or 1.
7.1.
Item 7.1.
And I guess after that, item 4 to, after that.
Okay. So at this point, the director is requesting item 7.1 to be moved up. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Motion to do that? Motion and second, okay. And we'll go ahead and,
I don't know if I'm following the right quorum method, but I just want to give you the background as to why we're at this item on the agenda.
okay, let me go ahead and read the item. Item 7, number 1 is discussion for the city to form and appoint a downtown parking advisory subcommittee. Is there any information you'd like to provide at this time?
The city commissioned a downtown parking study. And I'm sure everyone here have heard the uproar and the concerns about the prices that were changed and the times that we're enforcing. Norman Ramirez is here to answer any of those questions, but basically, a consultant had several recommendations and strategies on how to improve parking downtown. And one of those strategies is that we form a downtown advisory committee so that the downtown merchants, anybody with concern with downtown can have an input. And one of the things that was suggested, this is just trying to find the right place for it, I guess, is that rather than trying to get city council, which we're still going to explore, to form another advisory committee, is since the parking has always been under the auspices of this committee, to see if we could work out a way. They have concerns about how that would work if it did come to fruition. So we want to discuss those concerns that they have.
What's that?
Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, so we agree with the study itself. We think almost everything's on the mark with what, and I represent Fasken. That's the hat I'm wearing when I come before you. So they own the hotel, and we've been pulling together stakeholders, including Laredo Main Street. Priscilla is here. She'll probably make some comments. But we think that the advisory committee, as it's set out in the study, it's recommended. We like that. We think that we can get ahead with a lot more collaboration if we have direct stakeholders that are being impacted from downtown, so that nothing surprises us, right? So we don't get hit with changes that set us back in terms of planning with whether it's a restaurant, or whether it's a bar, whether it's whatever stakeholder downtown. So my inclination in terms of Fasken is to have a direct advisory committee. So we're not so we don't end up with an advisory committee to an advisory committee, right? It probably serves a better purpose from that angle. And secondly, having folks that actually have a stake in the downtown in terms of membership in that committee. So I realize that today is kind of like the first time that we have this discussion. We did have a meeting with city management a few weeks back, and we really didn't discuss where the city needed to go back and think through where it belonged or under what authority it should be formed. But at least my input here for you all to consider is that it actually be hosted directly under city council. And I provided an email to city management today suggesting that they think about structuring it the way they structured the TERFs, where the mayor appoints and the councilman of the district appoints, and then city management appoints directly under city council. And that's going to get two things: to provide space for people that are actually in the downtown. I think that's the intended purpose from the study. And secondly, just to improve on how we execute things going forward, so nothing gets kind of pushed through without that communication being in place. So those are my comments, and hopefully you guys consider it. I know this is the first time you probably hear about it, and Mr. McGee's right. I mean, it's I don't know if you're actually going to take action today, but we probably need to spend some time thinking about where it's best for it to be. And those are my comments. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Priscilla Iglesias. I'm the executive director for Laredo Main Street. We're a nonprofit organization that works with the redevelopment of downtown Laredo. And so a big portion of that is connecting the businesses and stakeholders of downtown to local government, and making sure that the decisions that are being made at local government are with the consideration of how that can economically impact a business in the downtown area. So kind of where this was kind of sparked was through the parking study and the changes that creating a committee such as the parking study recommended as well, will just help bring the downtown businesses have a voice, and so that we can have discussion prior to decisions being made. Because I think what's been happening, not just with the parking study, but with several other things around the city, is that decisions are made at a local government stage level, and then downtown businesses are being affected by that, either positively or negatively. So the discussion between the two needs to happen, and that's what we're here to try to do. I think that our organization supports a subcommittee. We would also like to see it under council versus it being under another advisory committee. I think that would be something that we support. But we're just here to open up discussion and seeing how we can get stakeholders involved in these decisions that are happening.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to bring it to the committee for two reasons. First, that you're not blindsided, that you can say, hey, that's something we normally look at, and at the same time you have the ear of your council member, and you can discuss that with them, so they're not blindsided as to what we're trying to do. So we're trying to keep it as above board and transparent as possible, so that way we can start here and say, you know what, it'd probably be something that should have its own committee, or not. You can discuss that with your council member.
To establish parking spaces, or what?
Actually, it really is.
Parking? Where are you trying to get the parking?
I think the concern was, right, when the parking study came out and the changes were made regarding to parking, that the stakeholders were not involved in that decision. There was no discussion with them prior to that being made, other than what they did in the study, right? The study had their own workshops.
It's a lengthy study, but
Yeah.
it's about
Oh, okay.
10, 12 different major things that need to happen.
Yeah.
When the study is where can people park? Is that what
Yeah,
they're
so-
doing?
Yeah, some of it is
It's
that.
Yeah.
rates, it's which ones are high priority parking, what lots we use, what times we're open, when we enforce them. That all that.
Signage.
It's pretty complicated.
So if downtown merchants were not consulted, who was consulted on it?
So there was some initial stages that were considered in this parking study at the beginning stages of it. They opened up for public forum. They had the public come out, and I think they had 3 sessions in a span of a day, I think it was, and where the public was able to come and give their whatever they wanted to say about downtown parking. Then they finished the study. And then once they created this package, the downtown businesses never saw this. And then there was implementation of things that were in the study, but there was never any discussion or anything about, okay, these are the recommendations of the study. How do we feel about this as businesses? How do you think it'll affect you? None of that. So the change happened, and then was hey, what's going on? And then by this time, it's difficult
too
to
late.
change once it's been passed through city council. So in order to avoid that, and the parking study recommends that there be a advisory committee, formed so that the
Do you know
businesses
who
are.
commissioned the study?
I believe it was the city of Laredo.
Through which department?
Was it the traffic department?
Yes, traffic parking.
Okay, traffic parking.
And there was no identification in the scope when you all did that they required?
Well, it says it in this, it states it in the study that there should be that communication between the stakeholders, right? It doesn't say at what point, and it doesn't say when that should happen. However, from the experience that was with the first couple of changes that need to be made, there was just kind of that, whoa, hold on, why is this going on? There was no communication. And we want to make sure that we avoid that with the future changes that are going to happen, or that may or may not happen, right? But keeping the downtown stakeholders in that conversation and that
So,
discussion.
in what level, and I know you may or may not have thought it all through,
Uh-huh.
at what level do you foresee this advisory subcommittee taking action on what responsibilities, what is their purview, their jurisdiction, versus our committee and overstepping our committee? What would be the separation? Is your all just parking, or would you
Well,
start?
probably the
would you-
study itself, right? So if it's in the study, it probably would be something that committee would chime in.
So if
it's
the study talks about off-street parking, then that would be there. If the study talks about circulation patterns for roads, then that would
I
be under that.
don't think it
purview.
talks about circulation patterns.
I don't think it
No.
was
Okay.
either.
I
Yeah,
don't know what
so
the
it would
process is,
be enumerated in this document, and it seems, it's a long packet, but actually it's pretty concise in its goals, it's very specific.
And
the
would it
other-
be a long-term committee or just a short-term ad hoc for that report study?
I don't know, that's kind of undefined at this
Yeah.
point.
I think that as far as Main Street's concerned, the reason why I think we would like for this committee to be under the council is so that there's stakeholder representation on it, but not just for traffic, right? Right now, this kind of sparked because of what kind of transpired with the parking study, but eventually I think we would like to see that committee be involved in other local government decisions that are happening that may affect the businesses economically in the future, right? I mean, right now we're level 1. We're seeing what we can do with this at this stage.
I think that would be
Yeah, we need
a
to
little bit
define-
beyond
Yeah.
what the study recommended.
Yeah.
Would be, they just advised of the parking advisory committee.
Mhm.
But I know that there's also the goal of having a downtown
Yeah. Mhm.
advisory committee.
And
as
so,
well.
in an effort, this is just us discussing of where the possibilities could go with this, right? Would be, instead of creating all these different committees, having just that one stakeholder committee so that all of these things such as this could go to that committee versus having to create one for this, having to create one for, all the other departments that, I think that's on a broad goal for us, right? But this is where we're starting.
We just learned, at least I just learned about this study, and the only thing I see is that if something happens the way you're proposing, what I see that could happen is that some other interested parties in some other type of business might just want to basically do the same thing, and we need, at least I would like some more information, because in that case, and this is, I'm just throwing it out there, might as well city council just propose another committee just for downtown.
Yeah.
Because
Industrial
if you take,
industrial ad hoc committee, we start getting into more micro committees
Yeah.
that control what happens. There's a, I mean, and I guess I would ask the question, like, how would they be chosen? Like you suggested, each councilman would choose, but the requirement, they would have to be a business in downtown to be part of that committee?
Or a stakeholder.
So, there's already the TERS committee that's set up. The mayor appoints 3, council member appoints, I think it's 1 or 2, and then city management appoints directors. So that's a downtown, for the most part, it's a downtown committee. It probably would fit, if we were to be a subcommittee, it'd probably fit better there, right? Because they're downtown focused. But the fact that you didn't see this report is part of why we're here. Because nobody wants to be surprised for not getting the information at the right time. So we think if we have an advisory committee, which is asking for, we could have gotten it, you could have gotten it too. If you're the traffic experts, you should know about this report, right? If you're the traffic committee. So this got approved under the rate structure change in that agenda item. So some of us didn't pick it up because it didn't look like approval of a downtown parking study. So that's really for us, it's like, well, let's follow what this says, right? Now, where you put it, we just think we would like to see downtown merchants, downtown bar owners be part of the conversation and be members of that committee, because they're directly being impacted by the change. So that's, if you haven't seen this and it exemplifies that we need a better structure to get information flowing, because you should already, if you're the traffic and it was commissioned out of the traffic department, I think it'd be good for you guys to have this. So that's, if you were to say, well, what's the again, you could do a direct council micro committee, which I agree, it could be very problematic if you start opening that door, or it could go to the TERS, which is, again, I think it's confined to the downtown, the TERS, so it may fit better there. And actually, I suggested that to city management to think about those 2 possibilities. As an example, this is a real example. We're here today telling you have a study that you didn't know. Well, a lot of you, or maybe some of you, didn't know about it. So that's why we're asking, for there to be a direct line to represent us on the committee. So.
No, I can certainly understand that. And whether it should stay in this committee or create another subcommittee or go to TERS, which is more focused in the downtown area, maybe that's the objective. So.
I think that subdividing, and I'm not an expert in traffic, my business is something else, but I deal with a lot with trucks, is that maybe, well, first of all, I don't know if anybody else knew about the study. Apparently, none of us knew about it, so, it really doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is, the study's there, but I don't want to speak, just by what you guys are telling us right now, because we just heard about it, but I think that maybe we should look at it from a different angle. Maybe you guys should look at it from, the tourist committee. It's not that you need to move that subcommittee over there or leave it over here. It's just that, we should talk to council and the mayor and see that they appoint the people that need to be appointed to certain committees, so that we don't have to make a subcommittee or a subcommittee because
And I think
We will never end.
with Mr. Gonzalez. For me personally, I mean, if it came as a council directive, well, then it came as a council directive to create an ad hoc committee. I don't even believe that we should make the decision here that whether it goes under us or doesn't go under us. It's not our position to make the
Then the
decision.
council.
That's a council.
That's at another level. But whether or not it could be taken out of what, or crossover, it would just have to be specific, I guess, when they create the committee as to what lines are we responsible for and what lines would that be, they be responsible for, so that we don't have the problem of overlapping.
I think, for staff, and, I mean, I'm sure they will voice their opinion when the moment comes, but, I think it's gonna be tough for them to say, okay, we need to report this to the Traffic and Transportation Committee, but we need to go to the Tourist Committee and tell them this because of the parking. And it's just I think it's going to become more of a mess for you guys and for the rest of the city than, thinking that probably that subcommittee will solve certain problems that, well, I don't know what they are, but
I think
that's what I think that we should think about before council makes that decision, because I mean, we're only advisory.
Of course. And I think that the reason why you're hearing it at this level is because it was recommended by the parking study. I think, like Mr. Ceballos did say, it's unfortunate that not even the Traffic Advisory Committee was aware of this study, because imagine you own a business downtown. One day you're telling your customers, hey, come after 6, park for free, we got you, come and hang out at our business. And then they do, and then they get a $10 ticket on their window because you didn't know that those changes occurred at council. No one told you that those changes occurred, and you didn't even see this parking study. We had been telling our downtown businesses, there's a parking study that's gonna happen, it's gonna come out, we're gonna see it, and we'll see what we can do, to better downtown. Now, I think many of the things in the study I agree with. I think they're great strategies, and I think that it'll solve a lot of the downtown parking issues that we have. But again, it's just that line of communication, and that's why I think you guys are seeing it here, is because it's coming in the study. It recommends that there be a committee that reviews the changes that will happen and the implementations of the recommendations in this study. So that's why we're seeing it at this level. Of course, that's where now we're trying to explore where should that go. Should it just stay here? Should it go to the chairs? I think.
I guess to help you out, it hasn't even come here.
Right.
So we haven't even,
Of course.
we haven't seen, we don't know what their even recommendations are being made.
No, of course. So imagine our surprise
Who
with the
decided to
businesses.
do all that? Who decided?
The City of Laredo Traffic and Parking
Okay, so
Department.
let me go back. When the downtown study was recommended, it was brought to the committee, okay? But I see different faces, and the only two that are still here is Mr. Dominguez and Mr. Canales. Okay, so most probably, that's why they don't have a clue about it, right? And then it was done in November, and the consultants that worked on it, and it came back to us as a draft in January. Unfortunately, in January, a lot of people retired. The city manager decided to retire too. So then it just stayed hanging. Like, the draft was there for the longest time. Then Mr. Rodriguez and Ms. Cabello were there, and then we tried to give it to the council member, and they were reviewing it, and by this time it was already February past, March, April, May. So it was too, like, it had been as a draft, like, there for so long that they thought that they needed to make the action like right away, instead of holding the draft. So they just approved it, and they took it to council, and that's why. So, I do feel bad, because it's like, everybody blames me, but it's just the process that it took, and it's just the things that happened, and that's why it went out like that, and we we didn't have chance to bring it back, bring that draft back to the committee, to traffic committee, and take it to council. The consultant also had recommended, to go and do the presentation at the city council, but, they thought that, there was no more time to do it, and it wasn't done.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid with the future changes, right? Because I think there was only 1 or 2 changes. There was, I think, 2 changes done at that council meeting. It was the rate change and the time change, right?
Right.
And
The parking meters? or-
on the
Yes.
parking meters, yes. And designated areas. In the study, they designate hotspots. And again, I don't disagree with the strategy. That's not what we're here for. It's just that line of communication the next day. Businesses are impacted economically by these
Yeah,
decisions.
You wanna know what's gonna
Yeah.
go on, you don't wanna
Yeah.
be hit by a bomb.
Yeah.
I think what we can do from this committee, because our item is just for discussion to form and appoint. I think what we can do as the committee is take it back to our councilman and have the discussion with our councilman and say, look, this is being brought to our attention that there's a need to form a downtown parking advisory subcommittee as per report. We don't know much about it, but the interest is there. What are your thoughts? And simply say, if our councilman turns around and says, well, that's your job, well then,
Of course.
we have our answer. But if they say, you know what, I think that's a great idea, that, how do you think it should work? And so we can always point to the fact that, well, some people have brought up that maybe it should fall under the TERS or the subcommittee already, or form a totally separate one. But at that point, for us to try to decide whether we feel that it's necessary, I don't know, we haven't seen what the report's even saying.
Of course,
Would you think you have the good representation with the tourist committee? Do you
With
think you'll be good with the representation that you have there?
For me, yes. Of course, I'm only representing one stakeholder, but I don't know if Main Street has an answer for that, but
For the convention of visitors?
no, the tourists.
Oh, the tours. We have representation. There's downtown stakeholders that are required to be on that board through the ordinance of how that was created. So I think we would feel comfortable with that.
There's merchants there. There isn't a bar owner necessarily, but I think the meetings are held downtown. In the evenings generally, so that could work.
And the other question, if you just want to discuss like the downtown, it's gonna have to be an ad hoc committee, because once we go through everything and you're comfortable and with the study, that's it, we can close it down. But if you
Oh,
wanna
okay,
do
I see what you're
a downtown committee without naming it downtown parking committee, then that one can stay. So we really need to define what is it that you wanna do. You wanna just go with the downtown and do an ad hoc, or you wanna do a downtown committee, like to bring all the items that you feel that they're necessary to bring before the committee.
I would like to see just a general downtown committee, because whenever if there are other reports, surveys, studies due in the future that require downtown stakeholder involvement, then that committee is already formed and it can go before that committee, and it doesn't have to be several ad hoc committees that need to come on and not come on, because the city is following the Viva Laredo comprehensive plan, and that comprehensive plan has economic development structure that involves heavily downtown Laredo. And so we're going to be seeing in the future the city of Laredo making more decisions regarding downtown and the stakeholders downtown. So I think that this can be the opportunity where we create that generally, and then in the future, just all those items can come before that committee versus having to create several committees for several things.
Yes.
That's kind of beyond the scope of maybe what you all are tackling, but we've been working to create like this downtown roundtable
Yeah.
where everybody's represented and can come to meetings. There's a steering committee, but anybody could walk in and discuss an issue.
But
That's
would-
kind of a more global, it's more than what we're doing here.
Here, yeah.
Today, we're really about the
study,
study,
yes.
because you were going to potentially act on it, so.
But wouldn't it be better, if they are being represented and they feel comfortable with the tourism committee?
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the study recommended like 12 strategies. Okay. it recommended a downtown parking advisory committee. Not a downtown economic development committee, not a TERS, it's just mainly to focus on parking, the decisions that affect parking. In my opinion, you start mixing those two things, you know, you got a bar owner and he wants his customers in front, potential, okay?
Mhm, of
You
course.
start looking at it from different points of view. And the advisory committee is here to advise based on that situation. What's the best way to have the parking? You know, it recommends apps, it recommends changing hours, and that's what the committee, and if the report is to advise about, like for instance, we raise the rates and the report says, go back and evaluate them in 3 months. Well, in this case, if we have an advisory committee, the advisory committee will look at those numbers and say, you know what, based on that, let's raise the rates, or not raise the rates. But I think if we start looking at adding other things, we're gonna get too many things convoluted, and we're gonna lose focus on what is recommended. It doesn't advise other economic, socioeconomic, anything else.
But,
Yeah.
well, that's basically where I wanted to get at. I mean, you guys could probably, in that committee, see a bunch of other problems that downtown has, and that committee could advise, you know, some other committees, because I mean, maybe one day, and I'm thinking just out loud, the airport. Maybe in the future, there'll be a project that will help downtown by bringing a flight, whatever.
Right.
And there's gonna be another subcommittee to see if that will help. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I think, you know, things should stay the way they are, and I'm not fighting for, or to advise you guys about the parking. I mean, I'm sure it's not easy, but creating another entity, I think it's just going to complicate things a little bit more than what they already are, because we know there's, you know, problems and.
Have you approached city council on this? In order, you know, in speaking in front of them, bringing up the concerns that you brought up with us to them to see if they can.
No, that's the reason I'm gonna, what Jeff said a minute ago, sums it up perfectly. What he says, we brought it here so we could see where it best fits, and take it back to your councilman and see what the political will is.
Correct.
Do you want another committee?
Correct.
Do you feel this should be part of something else?
Correct, Mr. McGee, for them to determine, for council to
Right,
determine, you
right.
know what, yes, we do need or let's keep it of either the tourist or traffic safety.
Yeah.
And we
The,
let
the
them-
reason we thought this would be the best fit here is because your transportation and traffic
Correct.
safety
Mhm.
and the traffic department and the parking together, this is the way it's set up, and
Mhm.
the committee kind of blends and mimics, and
Correct.
so.
So,
Good.
like Mr. Ceballos mentioned, we had a meeting with both city managers, the co-city managers, and Councilman Bali was there. And we had a little bit of this discussion, and he was kind of like, okay, take it back and see with traffic to see kind of where that would fit, would that fit? And that's what we're here for, is just to open up the discussion. We are still trying to figure out what would work best for the city as well. So, you know, again, having these conversations openly and seeing, you know, what ideas come out of it. I'm speaking of what we would like to see in the future and how we would like to, for everything to play out. But if at anything out of this committee or this meeting today is just, if we could just follow what the recommendations say in the study. And the recommendation is that there be a parking advisory committee that is constructed of the downtown stakeholders that are involved in the area that's going to be affected. And so at very minimum, I think that's what we want to get out of this.
And I do agree, the situation couldn't be handled better. But like Norma said, there was things that were waiting a long time, and the feeling was, let's help downtown, which we,
Of
you know,
course.
we're from the government, we're here to help, right? So we try to get something implemented, and that was even done before I got here, and I saw it, I said, yeah, that's a great move. As I drove around downtown here, I said, really, is that the best thing to do, you know, raise rates and stuff? But once you see the rationale behind it, it makes really good sense. And I think even the merchants and everybody else said, hey, the intent was the right thing. you know? And that's why we're gonna reevaluate it, we agree every quarter, right? we're gonna reevaluate it in court to see if it's doing what it's supposed to, you know, the best laid plans are mice and men, as they say. So we're gonna reevaluate, and that's what the advisory committee would help.
That's fine. If they decide that they need a subcommittee.
Yeah, if we could help more, we would. We're not trying to discourage you at all.
No, we understand.
Yeah.
So we're asking for you to take back to your councilman, councilwoman, and see if that's what they.
Can we possibly leave this item on the agenda for next meeting?
Yeah,
to
this was just a
bring back
discussion,
from
yeah.
what our councilman, and then we can have a discussion
Sure.
openly after having a conversation with council. Okay? Do that?
Thank you all
Sounds
for
good. We
listening.
appreciate everybody.
Yes,
and-
we do.
We just wanted to get our voices heard today. We appreciate it.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
having us.
So you already planted the seed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, it takes a seed, and then from there, great things can happen.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we just want to work
Best of
together.
luck.
That's all we want to do is work
Absolutely.
together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we'll go back.
Ward 2.
If you want to go ahead and go into 4.2, and we'll dispense with staff reports and communications last one.
Yeah.
All right. At the request of the traffic director, would anybody have any objections to that? Okay, well then let's just go ahead and go into item 7, number 2. Discussion / recommendation to convert Esperanza Drive into a one-way street.
14.
Oh, 4.2, excuse me. I apologize. Going back to 4.2 on the staff report, which is the traffic impact analysis. We do have members here that are interested in that, so, Pat, it's all yours.
I'm gonna, I guess, start with the end on this one. 2 meetings ago, we had a discussion on what a traffic impact analysis was and look into an ordinance. I can explain what that is. I'm putting, with us here is we've got Mr. Edward Garza, Crane Engineering, representing TSP.
Yes.
Okay. We discussed this separately outside the committee, and to see how the private community would feel about it as far as the engineers, and Mr. Garza took it upon himself to bring that up as part of the TSP. So he did, and I'll let you say the rest.
Okay.
I don't want to speak to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Edward Garza. I'm a professional engineer here in Laredo. I own a company called Crane Engineering. I also serve as the president of the Gateway chapter of the Texas Society of Professional Engineers. We're a local chapter comprised of about 32 paid due members. We did a survey of all the local engineers in Laredo to kind of get some feedback from them and how they felt about the value of a traffic impact study would be, and to help in the land development process here in Laredo. And about 85% of them are supporting this plan to do a TIA ordinance. Most of the engineers that are involved in land development here in Laredo do see a traffic impact study as a valuable tool to help to plan roadway design, roadway capacities, and integrate how new development can have an impact on existing infrastructure and streets. These studies can also provide good information in developing partnerships with other land developers, and in this case with the city. And this allows roads and streets to properly be planned and designed and coordinated. So a TIA can provide many valuable information to help engineers do a better job of designing and planning our roadways. And so we've reached out to Mr. McGee, and we've offered our membership as a resource and to help in crafting that ordinance. And of course, Mr. McGee, being a retired TxDOT engineer, has a lot of valuable experience. We already do some of this type of work in Laredo, especially when we deal with TxDOT when it comes to securing permits to build new roads. So this requirement is not new to the type of work that professional engineers do every day. Thank you. If you have any questions, please.
I'll preempt one of the questions and say, yeah, of course, it's more work for the engineers in town, but most of this work is pretty specialized, so they'll probably be farming it out. And if anything, they'll probably mark it up just to what's the word I'm looking for, to mitigate or
Yeah, and there are several engineers locally that actually do some of this work already. But yeah, we could see this as you know, I personally see this as a tool to do a better job of planning and design as a professional engineer. And I think it'll also help us in seeing more road projects being developed sooner than later. And with every road project, what the city always looks at a road project is they also look to extend water lines when road projects are extended out. And water lines, as you all know, with the recent boil notice being lifted here today, a water line extension also improves the network of a water system and allows water to maintain its usefulness to the public. And so roads actually help promote water distribution.
You stole my thunder.
Sorry. Can't help
I was like,
it.
That's exactly the script we wanted. Does everyone recall what was involved with traffic impact analysis? Do I need to go over it in even a summary kind of way?
So they're trying to make you're all trying to get a committee started, or the TIA's
No,
an organization?
I presented this to council
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago, and they actually directed me already to bring them back an ordinance to do this. To do the traffic impact analysis ordinance.
I'm in support of, I'm obviously one of the engineers that's in support of this, and I want to bring back his letter because I want to address something specifically
Can we
with his
read it
letter.
into the minutes or not, or, I don't know.
Well, there's just one area that's I think is what sums up it, and it says there, the third line from the bottom says, the welfare of our community and provide a fair and equitable program, okay? This is the most important thing that we as this committee have to understand. To maintain a fair and equitable program means that when TIAs are submitted, are they submitted to the traffic department of the city of Laredo for approval, or are they going to be submitted to our committee for approval? And let the discussion, because sometimes, with all due respect to the city and to the developer over there, or Eddie representing the developer, both of y'all, sometimes he leads one way, sometimes he leans one way. And the decision usually ends up with, well, if you're gonna wanna do it in the city, you gotta do it this way. But, you know, the developer said, well, but I'm gonna have to spend this much or whatever. So there's something that's missing with the TIAs that this committee needs to maybe be the one where, do we need to be looking at all TIAs when they come through? Do we have to approve a TIA and have some small report given and we approve a TIA? If they oppose the current TIA that's presented to them, who makes the decision which is, I mean, if he says, oh no, you need to add buses on that route. Well, we don't think there's gonna be any buses on the route. I'm just saying as an example.
Right.
Well, the buses make a big difference in the study. Okay, well, someone needs to decide that yes or yay or nay. And I don't think that the council would make that decision, or planning and zoning, but that's something that maybe our purview needs to be written in the ordinance. What is our responsibilities with respect to TIAs? Now, if the council doesn't think that we should have any responsibility with TIA, then so be it. Then they pass the ordinance as it is. But if there is some intermediary needed, then maybe we come into the picture. Just wanted to pass it on.
And bring up that table real quick.
What do you think? Do you think we should be involved?
Me?
No.
Oh, I absolutely think that this committee should be involved.
And you? You think we?
Well, that's something we're gonna have to research, but let me just, it's gonna be prepared by a professional engineer. And for it to be approved by laypersons, the ethics don't follow. That's,
Because there's a lot of engineering information in the TIA study.
Correct.
That needs to be evaluated by by a professional engineer, which you have that already in the traffic department. You have a good staff that can do those evaluations, so.
Mr. McGeehan, who does the TIA? I think we discussed it. Is it the City of Laredo staff, or do you
No.
contract it out?
just really quick, if you don't mind. A developer comes to us, he says, I'm gonna develop 500 acres, 1,000 homes, whatever. He says, okay, fine. Let me know where you're gonna connect your streets to. And that's all I know is that we're not trying to penalize them. There is one more component, remind me to talk about impact fees, okay? So we just ask them, let me know where you're gonna connect, how many streets you're gonna have, so that I can see what that does to the streets we have already, okay? And at the same time, so you know how master developments come in, they have 10 phases, okay? Usually, most developers come in with the ones that can sell fast, that brings them, generate some cash, and I don't blame them for that, they gotta do that, they got loans to pay, and da-da-da. And usually, the big road, they don't build it until the end, when they got the money in the bank and they can do that. Well, sometimes when we do that, we're funneling all this traffic to the smaller roads, and then we got all this, these problems, I guess, challenges. And so we say, okay, you know what, the TI will say, you know what, you can build the first 4 phases, when you get to the 5th one, you gotta build me that road, because our rest of our streets can't support it. And there might be a traffic signal here, and it depends how much traffic they generate as to how far they're gonna go out. You know, if it generates 100 vehicles in the peak hour, it's very small. Just tell me, and we'll take care of it. We'll retime the signals.
Correct. So the TIA comes from the professional engineer of the developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Themselves, or if they're
Or they can
confident enough,
contract it
or they
out.
can contract it
And
out.
the developer pays for all that, for
Yes.
the TA, doesn't come out of tax money on the
No,
developer.
the tax money is when I have to review it. I'm giving myself a
Reduce
lot
their
more work.
salary.
I get even more money. Well, I'm basically going out and looking for more work for myself. It's really what I'm doing.
So basically what this is you, the engineers want this, for this thing to pass so that everybody will be forced to present the TIA before they develop something.
Now,
So it'll be like a mandate.
do you mind if I involve Mr. Garcia?
Yes.
Eddie, right now, what do you have to do for water and sewer?
For water and sewer on any land development, we have to develop a master plan for water and wastewater based on the total land use and the type of land use that we're gonna propose, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial, whatever it is. Then we have to estimate the water and sewer demand for that property. Based on that, then we have to calculate the diameter of water and sewer pipes that are needed to serve that development. That's what we do right now with water and wastewater. We also do that with stormwater. Stormwater is the same thing on land. We study the land, how it drains, and we identify the amount of volume of water that it generates, so we can estimate the types of things like storm pipes or channels, detention ponds, etc. And so in a TIA scenario, we would do the same. We would estimate the amount of traffic that development would generate, and estimate what, and compare that to a master plan of a road system in a piece of property, so we can make sure that we have the proper size of road right-of-ways and the right-of-way, the street widths. And then we also, when we develop land in Laredo, all engineers compare master plans and land developments to the City of Laredo comprehensive plan. The City of Laredo has a comprehensive plan of a transportation network. And this network is to connect all land together, not just the land that the engineer is studying only. So the benefit of a TIA is to also look and study how that development can work with the future long-range transportation plan of the city. And this is how city and private developers work together.
So the TIA is basically just for transportation, to move cars and trucks.
Yes, sir.
Same study, different commodity.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
that's exactly right.
And at this point, a TIA is not required
No.
at this point. So we're moving forward or?
We've been burying our head in the sand and hoping that things are okay.
Correct.
And you can see the results.
And
So we're moving forward to
We're
create
all
an
convinced.
ordinance, como dice Mr. Canales, to mandate now the developers to have a TIA.
And
Right now, we have
If
a
it's
classification. We have a classification-based system. So if the road is identified as a certain classification, then the right-of-way is classified as a certain classification, then the road is a certain width. So this kind of, I don't want to say throws it out the window, but it adds a little extra to that to make sure that you can get the traffic to flow through there properly, and it gives the adequate right-of-way. So we are no longer restricted to just, oh, it's a local collector, it's got to be this big, that's it, you know. But now it's identifying even more aspects to the.
And if I could just say, in my experience as a professional engineer in Laredo, I have clients that voluntarily will pay for do a traffic study, even though it's not required, those are the good ones. And then I have clients that say, no, they're not rare. There's a lot of them.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And then there's clients that say, do I have to do that? So my duty is to follow the land development code, and it says, no, you don't have to. So then those are the guys that we want this ordinance to kind of like, come on, we gotta be doing the right stuff.
Correct.
That's where this ordinance can play a role.
Now, I did want to bring up, you heard me mention the word impact fees, or the phrase impact fees. Think of this table as being acreage on new land, okay? And then, right, that seam of the table, that's where we have, the master thoroughfare plan shows a big road being there, okay? Well, I happen to own 20 feet on each side of that road. Guess who has to build that road? Me, okay? So, but if you think of it in terms of water sewer, what do they do, Eddie, for water sewer?
Well, there's opportunities there where the city will oversize, pay money, put money in onto the cities to oversize lines. Plus, we can also work with other landowners around the area to oversize lines where everybody pitches in, and that way they have the right and ability in the future to tie in. So that's how we're able to do more and get more people involved to plan properly the first time.
So depending on where your piece of property is, you're trying, say you're trying to develop that piece of property, well, you're not gonna develop it because they're gonna make you build this piece from right here. You're gonna say, I'll wait until, but meanwhile, if you have a small street connecting to the south of you, where you're at, you start connecting there. So we don't fix the problem. And then,
So what does an impact fee do? How does that
well,
work?
what it does, it gives, what Eddie says, the opportunity for the city to say, okay, well, you know what, guys? We'll build the road, but when you build that piece over there, you're gonna owe me so much. We'll front it. Or you pay your piece of it and the rest when they do.
So would, in that regard, would the city implement some kind of tax increment zone for the new road so that all the development that are currently there existing would have to pay an increased tax for the road that they currently use?
I don't think it needs a new zone or anything, it's just the way water and sewer right now, they have contracts and say whenever you know more about it than I do.
But you're making reference to like new roads as opposed to existing?
Correct.
Is that what you're kind of,
Well, or both really, I mean, say you got a small road,
so you're talking about like a maintenance fee of some sort? to
well,
the road system?
like they do with the, if you, say you're the last developer on a road, right? Usually you come in, because everybody else already paid for that line,
Yeah.
you gotta put your piece in, right?
Oh, it's like a reimbursement contract,
Yes,
almost.
exactly.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that needs to be explored,
Mhm, yeah.
and if we get into this, and that's why we want to be a resource for you and this committee as our engineering group to help and discuss, because at the end of the day, once all this gets approved, if it does, we're going to be the guys that are going to be selling it to our clients, and we're going to be the same guys doing the work on it. So we need to make sure that, it's fair and equitable to everyone.
Mr. McGee, and if the ordinance does pass and they don't provide a TIA, what impact will that have? Will the project
They
stop?
can't proceed to go to.
Okay, so the project is just, they're just, okay.
Just like if you don't turn in a sewer master
Yeah,
plan
correct,
or
then
a
it's
water
just- it's
master
not gonna
plan,
happen. They're not
or
gonna
anything
approve
else
it.
you
Okay.
you wouldn't be approved.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'd just be another little checkbox, TIA done, yes, or approved.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
And like I said, I want to thank Mr. Garza for being here. Like I said, we're trying to show that this is meant to be a good thing. There's two parts of this. Like I said, first of all, is let's find out how much development we got coming. At the very, very, very least, so that the city knows, we need to do some of our own infrastructure. Or we need to say, you know what, guys, the same way that RIA has the authority to say, you know what, I don't have enough water and sewer for you. So until that gets built, and we need to think of traffic the same way. But unfortunately, we've been used to just telling everybody, your commuting time went from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, and you mow them. But we don't say that to water and sewer. We can't have that backing up. Nobody wants that, right? So we need to think about it a little bit different. And then the second part would be, okay, once we have the information, what do we do with it? What's equitable? And the council was very, very ahead of the game by saying, let's look at those impact fees. That's part of this discussion. So they understand what's going
The
on.
additional challenge that the department will probably be faced with is the fact that you have multiple landowners that have not developed versus multiple landowners that have developed along a street system. So the ones that haven't developed are not going to want to pay for the infrastructure improvements down the road, all the way down at the intersection, when the other ones have already come in, unless the others have contributed to building the other part of the road. So, you know, there's gonna need to be, they're gonna face the challenges with having to balance that. And hopefully you know, when they put the TIA ordinance together, they'll be able to understand and how they can account for that.
And Robert, research all the nearby cities, and we'll be looking at those numbers. I don't know if you want to go into them or not, but certain numbers trigger a TIA, and there's different types of TIA. Like I said, if you've got a massive development, then you're going to trigger the hardest one to do, you know, the most intensive one, okay? But if you got a small business, it's going to generate X amount, you may just need to tell me, this call traffic generation, and you get those from a book. It says, okay, I've got 5 pumps in a convenience store, and X, that's 50 vehicles in peak hour. Danny McGee, I want to generate 50 vehicles. You don't need to do anything. We got it. But you come in with 500 acres, I'm going to generate 1,000 vehicles in peak hour. Well, yeah, you need to tell me what you're going to do. How are you going to mitigate it?
Right.
You know, do we need accel and decel lanes? Do we need a median, or how are we going to do it? How's your traffic going to get in? How's the traffic going to get out?
And
And as Mr.
there's
McGee just
use
mentioned,
changes too.
It's a tool to help also to determine at what phase more road improvements really should be implemented. Yes, that's the plus too. That's a big plus.
Good.
Any other questions?
And where are we with this, Mr. McGee?
They
Did you
asked-
present this too?
They asked me to take it back to council in 60 days, which I think I'm already used to 3 weeks or so. So the next month, I'll be preparing that and then showing it to council. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of input as to what they want to see for the city. They know it much better than I do.
Will we be
So-
involved in any of the review of that ordinance?
I'm
Just
hoping to get it to you in the next meeting, and then after that, take it to the.
Oh, cool. Good.
So like I said, I've got a month basically to get it to you, and then hopefully 2 weeks after we get to the next. That's how I envision this.
Well, I gather from what we're hearing, both in the engineering community and, I see a bunch of nodding heads that, something
Positive.
that's positive for the city, and I think that, we can only talk to our council and be in support of it, but.
I think the more we get away from council, I think the better the city is going to develop, because they made some huge mistakes. So if this is going to solve a lot of the problems, yeah, I think,
Well, I'm not sure it's going to solve all the problems, but at least we'll know what the problems are coming. They don't blind us.
and we won't make those mistakes in the future, so that,
I
because.
mean, because money is always going to be tight, whether we need to do a big boulevard somewhere, how do we do that? And at least we know what we need.
And also maybe through this, we can also kind of share the responsibility. By sharing and spreading it out to more people, it allows a road project with these large type of projects to come sooner than later. Because it's a major infrastructure investment, any road, especially as you get to bigger and larger type roads like McPherson and those kind of roads. You're talking some serious dollars. So if we can do something like this and spread it out and everybody can pay their fair share, that's a win. I think it's a win for everybody.
I think so, and the beautiful thing is that private investment will always, keep money a little bit
Yes, sir.
tighter. It
Yes,
won't
sir.
make you, spend money like,
And people won't have a problem in investing if they know that their neighbor's putting in their share and their neighbor,
Yeah.
if people see it,
It's fair.
it's fair for everybody,
Fair.
they will do it.
Yes.
And that's what they all want. Everybody we talk to, that's all they want. I want to be treated the same way as him and as her, and that's what we hear all the time. So something like this could be that catalyst for that to happen.
and we can avoid problems like Loop 20. that
Yes, sir.
They built, we knew that road was going to be packed in 2-3 years, and now we see. the
Well, the
middle
beauty,
lanes
well,
being
from
built.
that perspective, the beauty from my point of view is that we have a district office in Laredo, Texas.
Yes.
We're very lucky to have that, and an arm of an extension of TxDOT in Laredo. That's a big plus for our city and our county, so that's.
Let me give Mr. Garza a big pat on the back for being here by using one of his examples, okay? Everyone know the Concord Hills area?
Yes.
There's one road comes out to one signal line,
Mhm.
okay? There is no reason why the development couldn't continue south and just adding more pieces and adding more pieces and adding more pieces. But all we were doing is clogging up stuff we already had. I'm not sure if it was approached, you took it by yourself, but you took the lead in getting a connection for all that area to Route 20. He approached me with it when I was doing a text, and I said, hey, that helps everyone. And so he asked, can you guys participate? I said, of course. And the city saw the need for it, and it was a no-brainer, I thought. So he got 6, 7 different groups together?
Well, we got 4 public entities and 3 landowners.
Okay, see, but if he hadn't taken that initiative, I'm not sure, like I said, I don't know where the initiative started. If it was you, it's great. If you just took the lead, that's
It was
also
between,
great.
at the time, it was between my firm and the city planner at the time, which was Nathan.
Okay.
That's where
So
we began.
if that initiative hadn't done, we still have more homes being added to Concord Hills and with no solution in sight. So we don't want to have to rely on initiative like that. Hopefully we can use that for other things. But this should be part of the process.
Well, consider our organization as a resource as you all work on this, and whatever we need to do to help, we're here to help, and we can get the other engineers from the other firms here in Laredo that do business in Laredo to help out and getting a good ordinance going.
Thank you, Mr. Gaston.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any other comments on the traffic impact analysis, Mr. McGee?
All right?
Any other comments, or y'all
No.
need to try to bring that back as soon as you can?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for moving it up.
Thank you very much.
Let me jump back to item 4, staff reports, the speed hump ordinance update. You don't have anything to add on that?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Speed hump ordinance update?
Actually, yes, it is. Can we bring up that? I took it upon myself to create a flow chart of what the speed hump ordinance it is now. And it's just to point out what the intent was of the ordinance as opposed to how we're using it right now. Do you mind if I go through this real quick? You stop me along the way. I'm gonna go quickly, but you let me know if you can. As it's written right now, there's basically 2 ways to get speed humps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
There's basically 2 ways to get speed humps installed, okay? One is a petition from residents. Okay, they have to take a petition, go to their neighbors within a certain amount of feet, and get 75% of them to agree that they want a speed hump, okay? That way, it's not one person deciding for everybody else what they get, okay? Second step, it's gotta be just residential land use. It can't be inside of an industrial area. 75% of the trucking area, you can't do that, all right? Then it's got all these other little requirements, okay? It's a local street. In other words, it can't be a Malinche, a Bartlett, it can't be a Clark, a Saunders. It's gotta be a local street. It's got only 1 lane per direction. You can't have 4 lanes. 3 lanes. The traffic volumes have to be below 3,000 and above 500. Okay. We're supposed to go out there and measure speeds to see if they really are speeding, because sometimes it's a perception problem. It's not really they see one kid going through there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they say someone's going to get killed here, and people are how people say.
It's been once a year.
Right. And then the speed limit has to be less than or equal to 30 miles an hour. In other words, we're not supposed to go out and put speed humps if you have a 35 or 40 mile an hour. The fire police have to both approve. Okay, that is a good location for it. Then it can't be classified as a major collector or arterial. Okay, we talked about that. All right. So then from there, the fire and police do their thing, and we're supposed to do ours, which is to collect the data, and the fire and police look at it. There's some special adjustments if there's a school zone involved. Okay, I won't go into that. It's minor, basically. It's got to be a yes to all those questions. Okay, then once we meet those, we look at the geometry. That's what geometrics are. Is there a hill right in the middle where we want to put it? That kind of thing. So we say, is there adequate sight distance? We always want to make sure we have adequate sight distance. Are there curves and grades okay? We don't want 8, 9, 10% curves, like we have in some of the Heights area. Is the street paved? We're not gonna put a speed hump on Caliche or dirt. Okay. Once all those are a yes, we go to funding. Who's going to pay for this thing? The way the ordinance is written now, you might go.
Do you have another page?
Yeah, it was supposed to be another page. Or was that it? I'm sorry.
That's the last
Okay, yeah. I didn't go into the funding, but the ordinance does provide that the citizens can come up with the funding, or they're encouraged to. Then if they can't, then they can ask their councilman, will you fund it? Okay? And if they really feel strong enough about it, you get 10 of them together, and a speed hump costs about $2,500, what we're paying for those. So say, yeah, maybe someone's willing to cut the check, but if not, they'll ask the councilman. Okay. Towards the end of this ordinance, there's a section called special provision. Almost every speed hump that we're doing these days is going by the special provision. Now, this is the real reason I wanted to bring it up here. I'm going to describe the way it's written, and then I'll describe the way it's being used. Okay. At the request of City Council, they can request it because they've seen something what they want. Okay. So the first criteria is there specific hazard, not just general knowledge of, is there a reason, was there an accident, is there really bad situation, is there a narrow road, there's something that really needs to be looked at. Okay, that's the first part. And then the second part is, was there a study conducted by the traffic department? And the study means you would go out and see how many accidents there were, what the speeds are, okay? And at that point, really, we should look at, is there something that I can fix aside from putting a speed hump, from the engineering point of view? And then if it's a positive yes, then we go down to these things. Is 85% of the people going more than 30 miles an hour? Is the street length greater than 700 feet? The fire and police, again, they're supposed to be part even of this provision. Do 75% of residents approve? The councilman's supposed to go out and get 75% approval. Okay. Has there been at least one accident? We don't want to just say people are getting killed out here and then we find out nobody's there. Okay. And we want to make sure that we don't create a problem by putting a speed hump. Okay. So if that's all positive, then at the very end, City Council decides. Okay. The way it's happening right now, literally it's happening. A councilman puts it on the agenda. We don't do any kind of study. Fire and police don't approve, recommend, or even we don't check for accidents. It just gets put in there, and the councilman pays from his discretionary fund. So the reason I bring this is not to say that we're doing things wrong, but we have an ordinance. An ordinance is a law. And I consulted with our attorneys here, and we still may need to get the written legal opinion on this. But from the way I see it and just looking it over, either we need to change the way we're doing it to be in tune with the law, or we need to change the law. Like I said, I'm not advocating either one, but we're knowingly not going to what the law says. And that's what I wanted you, hopefully you can bring that up to your councilman.
We should know what they say there.
Yeah, and for instance, I'll give you a good example. Right before I got here, they had requested an amendment to the ordinance. Okay, and this is where I'm kind of confused as to why we do things one way and another. Is when the previous version, what do they call a speed cushions? Okay, you seen the kind that, what the ones that are 8 feet long?
Rubber.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Rubber ones?
Yeah, remember those?
Mm-hmm.
We still have some out there that
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
that the fire trucks can
Can
straddle
go
them
over.
and go over? Okay. We have, that is written into the current ordinance. Okay? Then we started having a lot of problems with those things come up. Robert can tell you better what the problems were.
Yeah, maintenance, they fall
Maintenance,
apart.
you know.
They're
Yeah,
more of a
sí,
hazardous
sí,
situation.
So we were creating a problem. Okay? So they said, okay, fine, we're gonna start doing out of asphalt and gentle slope, but it's all across the road. We're not leaving room for the fire trucks and all that. So they asked us to rewrite the ordinance to change that part, so that, because every time it goes to council, they have to actually say in their request, speed hump at so-and-so street, however, change the speed cushion to read asphalt speed hump. So they're trying, in my opinion, they're trying to keep to the letter of the law on that part of it, but yet I think we're missing,
This one right here.
yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I don't think that they're knowingly bypassing the provisions. I think it was explained wrong, or maybe I'm reading it wrong, but from what I've asked, this is the way it is.
We should talk to our council.
Exactly.
Each one of us here. and
So, like I said, I'm not advocating either one.
So they won't do
But I
that.
just want to make sure, I'm trying to protect council from what their own
No,
ordinances.
they should follow that.
Can you send us this?
Yeah,
Sure
that's
can.
exactly.
You have
the request.
everybody's email, right?
That way we can share.
I will send you the actual ordinance itself, which is very dry reading. And I'll send you this full chart. So you can tell me, Mr. McGee, you got it totally wrong. But,
Well, you should, especially the fire department and the police should.
Yeah.
They should say yes, especially the fire department.
so,
You just don't wanna throw them everywhere just because.
right. Or if it's the wish of the council to throw them everywhere, which like I said,
No,
they're the city
that's not
council.
right, no.
Or at least let's change the ordinance to read, let's throw them everywhere.
No,
But they have this.
it cannot be like that, no.
Well, but I mean, as city council, they can, and that's where you come in, is to say, you know what? And the other part of this that we didn't discuss is really is that you're not supposed to install them in certain places, you know, within, how many feet of the stop signs?
Well, it's over 300 feet.
Yeah, over 300 feet, but yet we have example after example after example, we have a stop sign. 100 feet later, we have a speed bump. And we even have them, I'm not sure how many examples we have, but I know there's several. We have them on streets that have traffic signals. Speed humps. So somewhere we lost focus on this. You know, I know we're trying to protect our citizens,
Yeah,
but
spending money
maybe
for
enforcement needs to be more looked at, as opposed to trying to do it with every, so. Now, speed humps do have its place. You know, there's other traffic calming we can do. And by no means am I trying to eliminate this ordinance, because it's a tool in our toolbox. But I think it's one of those where you found your favorite hammer, and we're just using it all the time.
No,
So, like I said, we will send it up, and let us know what you think next time. I'll have them do it again.
I'll talk to my councilman.
Sure.
Órale, entonces ya no estás hablando, no more speed bumps. No more speed bumps in the Heights area.
Excellent.
And if I could mention one other thing, this is a selfish reason. Real quick, sorry.
Jeffrey's
The city council has been paying for these things, so $2,500.
Ladies and gentlemen, see you
Thank you
next
very
month.
much.
Have a good
We
evening.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
We get the money to construct them originally, but almost like anything that we get money for, a traffic signal, okay, once we do a traffic signal, it's not maintained with the zero money forever. Everything takes money. You know, your own house, you gotta repaint, you gotta, speed humps also.
They need to be maintained.
And especially speed humps, because what happens at 2 o'clock in the morning when the asphalt on the speed hump blends in with the asphalt on the street. So we have to make sure those things get repainted and the signs are up and that those get knocked down. And every sign we put up is something that somebody can hit. I've always took that attitude when I was with the highway department. I minimize signs, and it's another sign I have to maintain. If you go back and look at my budget comments, is we don't have enough money to do all the signs we need to. But yeah, we're going out and putting more signs. It
More
takes
expensive.
4 signs for every installation. 2 advanced signs and then 2 right at it. Okay. And people park their cars behind the curb, and that's where our signs are, et cetera, et cetera. So those have to be replaced real quickly. We estimated we have over 500 speed humps just right now. And factoring in our cost of labor, it takes us about $150,000 a year to do half of it. So
Half of them?
a 2-year program is about $300,000 to maintain, just to maintain this. So everything that we do always has a price tag to it.
That's not much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate indulging me.
All right. Any other comments from staff on this? Okay, moving on to communications. Item 5. Topics and items reported by committee member for District 2. The items that were presented was discussion and update on the lighting for Cuatro Vientos Road, and some communication by the traffic department.
That's correct. That was mine, if I can just chime in. I spoke with Councilman Rodriguez, and he just wanted an update on the lighting project on Cuatro Vientos to see where we were at, type thing.
Okay, we really haven't made any progress on this. We gotta sit down with TxDOT.
Yes, sir.
Because, again, while I was over there, at the time, being with TxDOT, I wrote the city a letter. And if you heard me say this last time, I apologize, but there's two ways to build illumination on TxDOT roads. And one of them is called a 50-50, where everybody pays 50% of the construction, the design, and the maintenance forever. Okay. Most cities don't do that because they have to come up with the money up front. So the one they choose is called a 100% agreement, where TxDOT designs, builds, inspects 100%. Then they turn it over to the city for 100% of their operation and maintenance. And all the illumination you see around town, how many do you have, 100 something, MS? The real tall ones? The ones that are 1,000 feet in the air? We maintain those. TxDOT built them, and we maintain them. Now, that everything comes with a string. We have an illumination agreement. It says that if we don't, the city, now I'm speaking as a city, if we don't maintain those, TxDOT has the right to say, city, maintain those. Well, the whip comes that if we don't maintain them, they can take them down and send us a bill, because they paid for them to install them, and that was part of the agreement. So we are on the hook forever, unless we always decide later on that we mutually agree that we don't want the lighting because of whatever reason. But as part of the agreement, we have to maintain. And so when we incorporate Cuatro Vientos, I'm telling you a lot more you need to know, but Cuatro Vientos, the city decided that they would do the 100% agreement, like they've done for the others. The money has not been identified. I think we were talking about $500,000 to do Cuatro Vientos. We just need to sit down and say we want to do from here to here, or how much can we afford. So that money was not identified in the budget process. So I need to sit down with management and figure out how much money is available. You remind me next time too. We'll have a better report for you next time.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you.
But it is on our list too.
Thank you, sir.
And then, all right. We should be item number 2, it's labeled 1 there. So item number 2, discussion on citizens and anyone asking for money at the intersection of city streets. Have any communication on that?
Just a real quick question. When I explain stuff, am I being too wordy or verbose, or is it okay? I try not to be, but at the same time, I want to make sure I tell you the whole picture. So please stop me if I ever get too carried away. I'm passionate about my job and the city, okay? Back in January...
Okay, that's too much right there.
Back in January, the city passed, after a year or two of looking at it, Vision Zero. You've heard me mention that concept before. Okay. As part of that, it says we're not going to have fatalities, any, and serious injuries. We're going to try to minimize those. We're going to have a lot of crashes. Hopefully they're all minor. Police chief had told me last week, on average, we have 170 something accidents on the road per week. Per week. Okay. So if we can take those numbers and eliminate fatalities and serious injuries, that's what Vision Zero is all about. Okay. If anybody watched the last city council meeting, they gave me their blessing, and the city manager put out a directive. We're going to start enforcing parking. Not because we're trying to get after anybody for parking, which we discussed earlier, but because, and this is the same explanation I gave them, is that we're having a lot of projects to do sidewalks, but as soon as they're done, what do we do with them? We go park our cars on top of them. We're making pedestrians go up the street. Okay, so we have that covered. We're going to have a citywide enforcement of it, where we're going to. It's an education campaign. It's not to raise money. It's not to give tickets. It's to change driver behavior. That's what we're doing. Okay. As part of that, okay, remember, I'm trying to look out for pedestrians, but yet on the corner of Bartlett and Saunders, we'll have kids 10-year-old kids, and being supervised by somebody, but walking between cars. So we're taking pedestrians and putting them between cars. I think that's.
Or the guys that are asking for money with a lady in a wheelchair in the
Exactly.
middle of the street.
Right.
At that corner, and the one on Loop 20 and 359, in the middle of the night, it's dark, you can't see them.
Exactly.
While they're waiting for, that's a bomb waiting to explode.
And unfortunately, Webb County was identified as a very high pedestrian accident rate here. And most of those accidents are caused by pedestrians. They cross where they're not supposed to.
Mhm.
They're wearing the dark colors. They don't cross at crosswalks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Not to put the burden on, or blame on anybody, but we're mixing things that aren't compatible. Well, the more I see these things, I'm having to drive down, and if it wasn't me being the defensive driver that I am, I could easily graze one of these people.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
every
Every day.
time after time,
Every day.
if say you're the fifth car, and then they walk towards you, asking for money, and they get to you, and then they turn back around and give their back to traffic, and then the cars start moving. Okay, and then a side effect of all this, and it's not the reason I brought it here, but just so you're aware of it, because in my opinion, it promotes a little bit of road rage. Is the first guy wants to give money and he's digging and digging and digging and digging, everybody else is not.
The other
So
guys
by
are
the time you
something.
get the green light, and then he wasted all the green light, well, it affected capacity, we've talked about that. But at the same time, the guys behind him are leaning on the horn and wondering, and they want to kill the guy. Figuratively, okay, I don't mean literally. So it does create other problems, okay? And like I said, we're putting people, to me, in my opinion, where they don't belong. That it's a fundraiser, it's a great situation, yeah, you have a captive audience, they're there, but I just don't think it's the right way to do it. So I just wanted to bring it up for discussion to see if you felt the same way. Because my job is to look at eliminating fatalities anywhere, and I think Robert heard me say this for 20 years that I've known him. Why do you guys allow that? Why do you guys allow that? Well, now I'm here, and I don't want to allow it.
Well, I'm 120% with it.
Yes.
Me too.
Get something done. We
Now,
need to get it done.
that it's going to create some, I guess, uproar. You got the Blue Brigade, and you got someone raising money for a funeral, and I mean, by no means,
They can do
I
a
feel
carne
for
asada or
that,
something.
and
They can do a
exactly.
plate sale.
yeah.
I
But it
think
also
it-
applies for the people trying to wash your windshield.
We've all experienced, that same situation, the good situation, the bad situation, and it all. The only other thing that, we gotta be careful about, and I support Vision Zero, 100%, I'll say it here. But as with anything, are there studies showing, are there fatality reports showing that this fatality was a direct result of someone soliciting money at an intersection? If there is, then that needs to be brought forward. If there isn't, but you're just saying it's going to happen like a time bomb, well, there's a lot of time bombs out there, right? So we have to be careful about how we view Vision Zero. I mean, obviously, no one wants a fatality. No one wants to put anybody at risk, and we all think it's a challenge. But yes, there are some benefits that people get out of it. Do I support having people on the intersection? I do not, personally. But I do have to look at it from a perspective and an open mind to say, have there, in the last 10 years, 20 years, been any fatalities as a direct result of use of those intersections? Now, if there has been documented injuries, then hey, by all means, bring it forward, because that's your smoking gun to getting them to go with the Vision Zero. But if there hasn't been, and you were just saying it because it's a concern, then then it comes a personal issue. Like for me, I'm going to tell my councilman, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, hey, they can go do something else off the city street to create and generate income. But others that get money from that might say, hey, that's a good thing for us.
Yeah.
So it is going to be the challenge.
Yeah,
But we've
because
got to look at.
It's gone worse as it is. If you go 10 years back, that was not that much of a problem. It's like now everybody wants to wash windows. They see one guy making money. You got, and every single, it's already, it's getting worse, and that's what's gonna happen.
And I say it again, you're preaching to the choir here,
No,
because
but
I
if
agree
you
with
go
you.
10 years back, 20 years back, we didn't have that.
No.
It's getting worse all the time. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And 90% or 95% of the people are drug addicts there. It's not so much people, for a church or something, which is understandable, but it's going to affect maybe 5%. But the majority now, since, he saw, oh, that guy's making money. The other guy that is in the other corner. And then they fight for the corners amongst
Well,
themselves.
if you have the support of this committee, and this committee is strongly 100%, 120% in agreement with you, what can we do to help
Well,
support that?
I do want to bring up one other point. When I told Erica, I want to have this on the agenda. So she comes and tells me, okay, we have to prepare it. How do you want to write it? I said, oh, you know what, give me a second, let me think about it. And I said, and I purposely just put a discussion on doing it. I didn't phrase it on passing ordinance to outlaw or remove or whatever. We could look at age limits. How many people can be out there? Training, that there's some
They have
people that.
they have to go through a
Yeah,
training.
there's some that have very, very good,
The fire department.
yeah,
You know.
but some have very good reflective materials and other guys don't have anything at all. So that's the discussion, is that, okay, I don't think we want to wait until we have, because what's going to happen, they're going to say, why didn't you guys assume about it? But I think there's things we can minimize it with not eliminating as part of that maybe. And then we say, you know what, we tried this. I'm always for trying to do things incrementally. To say go from 0 to 60 is very hard. So, but maybe we can have some guidelines on who needs to be out there, that a parent needs to sign off on a kid being out there, that there can only be so many, that it can only be, I honestly, the time that they pick to do it is when. When it's very
Busiest
consistent.
time. It was great.
Well, when there's a lot of cars.
That's the
And
last time.
There's
I
gotta be
went.
other ways of making money, plate sales and stuff. There's other ways of making, because if you leave it wide open like that, then you're gonna have all these tecatos wearing these vests, real nice vests, that they'll steal at a
It
place, and they're gonna be
absolutely 100% needs
So,
to be
when-
controlled.
when the
It needs to be-
officer-
Needs to be controlled,
And when the
or needs to
officer
be
gets there, they
limited.
will not be able
And
to
that's what I
enforce.
wanted to bring the discussion, because
That
other
was
cities
my
have
concern,
ordinances
Mr.
going
Romero,
on.
the enforcement.
Because the officer's not gonna be able to enforce it. He said, well, let me see, how old are you? No, it's either yes or it's no. So you cannot do it, because it's gone worse than it was, 5 years ago.
And that's what Dan was just saying, that there's other cities that have ordinances, that some cities have ordinances that eliminate it, some have ordinances that define it specific to certain.
So if you don't mind, then I'll bring you something back
All right.
to see what other cities are doing and some examples. Because I just want to discuss it and see how you felt about it, because I feel very strongly about it.
Okay, excellent, thank
For
you.
that.
All right, item number 6, discussion of possible action on the following. There's nothing there, so we'll go into item number 7, number 2. We've already covered number 1. Discussion and recommendation to convert Esperanza Drive into a one-way street. Do I have any communication?
TechStop was supposed to be here. This was a request from them. If you've seen any of the previous city council meetings, it's been a topic of the area in front of the mall.
Okay.
If you're coming off the Man Road exit, if you've been out there recently, you've seen that TechStop installed a bunch of those delineators, what people call palitos.
Yeah.
Okay. So they felt that it wasn't working as well as it could, that they felt that if they turn Esperanza into a one-way street coming out, then if you don't want to go out there real quick. Their idea is this, right now, we have delineators on this line right here. Then somewhere around here, we have other ones that go from here to here. Okay. So what they want to do is have Esperanza be a one-way coming out, so that these people that cross all three lanes,
Automobile was getting there.
there's no need to do that because it's a one-way street. Okay. My assertion is, we already have this blocked off, okay? Anybody that wants to come out, where do they come out to?
One lane.
They come out to this lane, which is already.
To the turning lane.
Right. Yeah, so it's already functioning as a de facto one-way street. Why would you want to come out here?
And go back around the block.
So what does that force you to do? The people that do it, they come out here and all of a sudden they go.
Yes.
Probably the best solution in the world, but it would create a bigger uproar, would be just to close this down.
Something from 0 to 6.
From a traffic point of view, it creates a bad situation because we have a lot of people coming off the Man Road exit. Where are they all
Casa
going?
Raúl.
They're going to Man Road. Okay. And then where do people come from the mall going? They want to go to that turnaround. So we created this right here.
Well, that's what I was gonna mention. I mean, you're closing, and there's no way for those cars to merge left, and some of them wanna either turn left to go to whatever businesses, or go on the
Or they
turnaround
go in there and
to
go to the mall.
go south of 35.
The bigger solution and long-time solution and expensive solution is to move the ramps. Just move this off-ramp further back so that you have a lot more merging space, and then you create an on-ramp over here. But it's not on Texas plans to do that anytime soon.
And then it'll probably create another situation coming into the mall, exiting the mall,
So, you know, anything you do in traffic always has repercussions. You just have to pick the lesser of the evils.
Which one do you want?
Fix.
You know, one or two.
So, in my opinion, like I said, we'll keep it like this, but we'll let TechStop come back next month. If you don't mind, I'll have it on the agenda again, and they can explain to you.
You probably saw this a lot when you worked at TechStop.
I was the one that originally put those up there, and then they overlaid the road and they took them off.
I remember a few years back, well, when I was a member of this committee, it was different, when Mayor Flores was mayor, they talked about just canceling that exit on 35. I mean, it serves no purpose.
Well,
Because you go hit that light,
Yeah.
plus all the traffic coming from the mall. I mean, instead of closing the street, we should probably think about closing the exit ramp.
let me tell
I'm
you
sure
what.
Hank is gonna be,
Let me tell you what
happy.
Let me tell you what happened with close that ramp, okay? You would have to exit Calton Road, I'm sorry, the Calton Road exit.
Yeah,
It's already done.
That was already backed up.
In the end, but
Okay,
it's full.
you're gonna back up that line
Yeah, it won't
up into
work.
the ramp.
It won't work.
And then to try and move that many cars through the signal, we already have, that's one of the most congested intersections we have already because we have so much traffic going across. We have to coordinate Erie, which is where the Luby's is, with the light there, and then we have to coordinate San Bernardo. And that's a truck route, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking about something that's already way over capacity, and we want to add more to it.
Well, what if you create an exit ramp like
I
the one
would rather have people get off at Del Mar,
and turn around?
go turn around and come back around and make the left. Now, what problem do we have there, Robert?
Could you
We
cancel
have
the underpass?
Springfield that backs up
Yeah.
all the way to 35, because the lights not.
On Santa Ursula, southbound, okay, at Man Road, we have a dual left there. How many lanes do we have receiving traffic on Man Road? One. So, no matter what we do, we need to think about what happens upstream, downstream. It's one of those damned if we do, damned if we don't kind of things.
And if you close the whole underpass?
Pick your poison, Del Mar, Calton.
0 to 100.
For those dollars,
Gives you a lot of stacking here.
The only good news I can offer you on all this, and it's true to some extent, is that we're already built out. You know, there's really no more spaces for new subdivisions to bring in more traffic. So the problem we have now is almost as bad as it's gonna get ever. Almost, except we got the Christmases and Thanksgiving.
So basically, what we need to think about is maybe moving either the
Let's move
exit
them all.
ramps or
them
the
all.
ramps going to 35, just redesign them or, in the future.
Like I said, that's the only flash of hope I can see in this whole thing is that, like I said, there's no, look, zoom out, where do you build anything now?
No, right now.
Yeah,
So
so,
what is the benefit of the need, what is the need for that road coming into the mall though.
Which
I
one?
thought it was at
The
the,
one by the newspaper, office, right there.
This,
Oh, Esperanza? That's where people cut across Man Road, they go into it, and they go to the mall through that back entrance.
And I go to Frank's to get my.
No, I know, but where's that road?
Well, that's the thing.
Then people would have to find the better route to get to the mall.
Yeah,
They wouldn't come through the
they
intersection.
would have to go down Man Road,
Yeah,
all the way
that's
through,
right,
go back
that's
around.
right, but it'd be a better option.
Or do a turnaround and come back to Calton Road and
So,
turn
I mean,
around
that,
again.
to me, if you wanna fix that little situation, you gotta get the mall people off of the situation. I mean, you could get people to take a right coming off the highway there, and then, but then they'd have to go all the way around to get to the mall, so they wouldn't do that, they'd go a different route.
Well, earlier you
Anyway.
heard mention about having a toolbox, right? That speed humps are a tool in my toolbox. Okay? One of the biggest tools I have in my toolbox, and you're gonna laugh at this, is just leave it alone. Don't do anything. Everybody knows we have a condition problem. Everyone knows the time it happens. It's the same people driving to Belmont, to JSJ, the mall. They already know what to expect. They already know. So if I try to do something else, I may create something that they're not used to. If we have accidents out here, I'm not very sure. I mean, we haven't run accidents in a while, right?
no, sir.
Okay.
None.
So if I were to run accidents, I think we had somebody turn over recently or something like that. But that's kind of an anomaly. Most of them are just, fender benders, scraping the sides and stuff like that. So sometimes just leaving a problem by itself is the best solution, because you might create something worse.
Mr. Medina, on Esperanza Drive, is it the whole street? Is it gonna be the entire, or is it just gonna be a section of Esperanza Drive?
No, I mean, if we were to close it or one way or whatever, it would be just that piece right there.
Oh.
But my argument is, it's already working like a one-way street. Because I wouldn't want to come out of there and then try to cross 3 lanes of traffic to get to the turnaround. There's people who will do it, but
Especially if those people wanting to go to the mall are coming off of there, now they're gonna have to loop all the way back around. They're gonna go all the way up and around and back.
That's
So
not
they're,
my-
they're gonna be merging at that same turn lane that they're turning into. Yeah, you better off making it one way or the other.
Right now, this is where the solid line is, when it starts, the delineators stop it right there. So if you come out of this right here, you literally have to turn, and then you got cars that are going this, okay? That's at the peak hour. They're going like this, like this, like this. So you literally have to time it right so you can go boom. And I think that's a suicidal move. That some people do it, I have no doubt, but
Yeah,
not the average person.
no.
Anyway, so that's what they're gonna present next time, and they'll have their reasons, and hopefully they studied it better than I just explained it.
Maybe you can solve the problem if you think about closing some other street. And I know the mall's gonna kill me, but if you close the exit, I mean, if you just, where cars come out over here, where Tacotote is, this one, and you won't throw as many cars into that intersection, and cars coming off the ramp and other cars flowing might be
Well,
able to
But we still have all the
handle the traffic.
frontage road, all Sandalillo traffic.
Yeah, but it'll probably be a little bit more spread out. The problem is everybody's trying to come out there, and that's what, between everybody stopping here to give this guys the right of way, everybody starts parking around here, stopping because they have the right of way. This just backs off. I mean,
But-
it's very ugly.
I mean, we could ask Texas to go approach the mall and try that. I'm not gonna do that.
I'm not-
But whether they originate, whether they originate from south of that, whether they originate from south of that or there, it still comes to the same point.
But what traffic is TxDOT trying to improve? Are they trying to improve upstream of their connection or downstream? I mean,
What they're trying to do is to not have to have those delineators in front of that street, so that they can push the traffic further up.
So then why not just make it a one-way in? Well, that's
As
what.
opposed to one way out.
It was, I'm happy with what they have out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll
Okay.
let them present their case
they're-
as to why they
okay,
want
cool.
to do more.
And there's no other solution, because if you throw the traffic towards Luby's, I mean, you hit Calton, and Calton's even worse. So you don't have, other alternatives for people going to the mall to take 35, especially if you're going south.
Like, let's look at the problem in this committee, so, because I know it's gonna come back to you one day. It comes up every 6 months, maybe, the Man Road thing. Let's look at Man Road real quick, just so you're not, taken by surprise like you were with the Norma's parking study. Norma, shame on you. Okay. This has come up time and time again. There's some very vocal citizens, which I don't blame them. We have dual left turn here, okay? And after you go into here, look what we have over here. Straight, and this thing has to do what?
Turn.
Okay. So if you're here, legally, you're supposed to do this.
Transition.
Come to this lane here, and go that way. But we already have a turnaround. Why would you get into that lane to go through a signal to do a turnaround, which you already have a turnaround that doesn't have a signal?
I figured the traffic just striped it wrong.
No, the reason is because we only have one lane to receive traffic over. So we cannot have two lanes merged. And then on top of that, we have this thing that's offset real badly. When people come from this side over here, going straight, this one literally has to go like this. And what the Belmont people are bad is because these people, they're not doing what they're supposed to. They're all trying to merge in here. But it's working. There might be a few accidents, but people already know what to do, and it works.
So what about acquiring
Well, we would
right
have to
away and property and
acquire right away and build it and utilities and all that stuff, and there just hasn't been that motivation.
No.
That's what you're here for. Motivate your council members. Okay. But as you can see though, we could also restripe Man Road to squeeze traffic, but now we have a problem where we have the lane here that's a free right. It's a very heavy right. So we could borrow the lane here, but what's going to happen? This queue, which is way back there, now is going to get even longer because one right turning guy or one bike going straight is going to kill the other guy. So remember about talking about doing nothing?
Okay.
So
Fire right?
all these
Fire right.
have solutions, but they're all big solutions.
Yeah. Gotta acquire more right away.
Expensive.
And this one will come back to us. I've been out personally looked at it like 5 times. I'm sure Robert's done the same.
So TxDOT won't fund it because they created the situation?
Well, honestly, who created it?
I'm just saying, it's their road, Mr. McGee did when he was there.
Now, the other solution is, and I'm sure Robert is why I haven't brought it up, is I could get rid of the dual, like ask TxDOT, get rid of the dual left. But what do we have? What do we have a little bit north of here? Turn around the other way.
What do we have north of here?
Right here.
Going off.
We have an off ramp, and guess how long that ramp gets her as a dual left? Can you imagine?
Go back up.
Yeah,
I think this is an old photo.
I think it is. Yeah, we have that merging down there.
Yeah, this is an old, well, that's not right. Where's the It's further back, it's an off-on.
Okay.
Alright. Off-on, right there. So you're either gonna block the on or block the off
Yeah.
as you back up.
So in my opinion, when I was asked to look at this, best thing I could do is not turn.
Neither, no.
And I had people from, when I was in Texas, I had people from our division come down, and they agreed with me. And we almost have the same situation in another one. If you're familiar with the direct connector coming from Mines Road to get on 35, can you show us that one?
Just real quick, because these are all topics that come up.
Which one? The one
Mine-
that's
mine-
Santa
mine-
Maria?
This is the direct connector, it comes,
Yeah.
connects to,
Yeah, okay. You're coming from Mines Road, and if you're on the left, it takes you to I-35. If you're on the right, it takes you down to Santa Maria. Okay, well, we created another merging area there. You're coming off that thing, you don't want to, most of them want to go towards Santa Maria. Okay, well, we got people coming off the other direction on the frontage road that want to go, so we have this again. And I took the people out there and said, what's the best? I wrote it down, and I said, I'm not gonna show you my solution. And I said, do nothing. And I said, okay, what do you guys think? And he said, well, I probably won't do anything. I go, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or that's smart, but I didn't have a solution. Well, I have a solution by picking one. If I favor one over the other one, I can do something. I just didn't know who to do it. But it's another one of those that it works. And I remember when I would go look at the street view on this one, there's pictures of vans and stuff cutting across that gore area.
In the highway systems, they have zipper transitions that work, so that's essentially what we're doing.
Well, sorry to keep you so late, but you guys owed me from last time, so.
I guess that,
I do appreciate your time. These are very important topics to me, and I've gotten some great feedback.
regarding the item, are we gonna leave items number 1 and 2 on the agenda again for next meeting? Is that what the intent is then? Until TxDOT comes back and
Yeah, we'll
until we talk a little bit with our councilman?
we'll repost that one, the Esperanza one, and I guess you can give them a heads up. And then on the downtown parking advisory committee, if you can get their, I guess their feedback or how they feel about it, and then we can proceed other ways.
Okay. Oh, we've got some homework.
Yeah.
And I have, well, we can,
The speed hump ordinance, I'm gonna send you the ordinance itself and my flow chart. On the traffic impact analysis, I'm gonna have a good working copy we can present to you next time, just give you the highlights of what triggers it and what the impact fees are. I'm supposed to have that also. And then for the Cuatro Vientos, I need to meet with TxDOT, and I also need to meet with my management and see if we have any money, because we don't have any money. And the wholesale's gonna go on. And then, I guess on asking for money at the intersections, I need to bring back to you some examples of what other cities are doing. Either curtailing it completely, or if they're having some kind of restrictions, requirements, criteria.
and I have one, as I was coming to the meeting today, I saw, as you turn on Del Mar, from Bartlett coming this way, I saw that the city installing some new, like, lights. There's gonna be another pedestrian crossing
Yeah.
where cars are gonna have to stop.
Do you mind covering that real quick? I can need to go to the little gentleman.
sure, so,
He's very, very familiar with it. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Before we jump into that, just one in the procedure, what we need to do on our,
We can talk about.
on our meetings, on our agendas, we need to either have an item for committee, open agenda, or something to be placed so that when things like this come up that aren't on the agenda, we have at least a placeholder to have a conversation about it. So that's something that I'm
Like
gonna
open for
recommend.
discussion.
You know, open agenda for discussion only, or something like that. No,
Other business,
you know, or other business, or things like, something like that we need to have. In this situation, I think we'd allow, go ahead and open, if everybody's okay with it, the item for open discussion. Okay.
Do you have one, Mr. Canales?
No, I noticed it as I turned coming from
so,
Del Mar to Bartlett, not even a block. maybe, and,
so the environmental department received some federal grant money for a hike and bike trail. It's called Zacate Creek Trail, and it runs along this perimeter here, and it crosses over Bartlett, and it connects to Del Mar. along the creek again, but where it crosses is right here after that bridge, and they had to figure out how to cross over Bartlett at the time, and this was before we even had the alignment, the Bartlett alignment, I believe, the right of way. And so, we're not in agreement with this. We opted to say or recommend that they cross under the bridge and through the culvert, and they do have the capacity there, but the engineer they're working with went ahead and put this in the plans. This is a hybrid flashing beacon, and it's for pedestrians, bicycles.
With little advance warning, no, there's no.
Yeah, it's a curve, and so we're not in
Where
agreement with it.
Are we supposed to stop at that thing?
Yes.
Oh, we're supposed to stop?
Yeah, it's a stopped condition.
If you've ever been to Austin, they have several of them there. And even they have a hard time using them.
It's a bad idea.
So we're gonna, they have to proceed with the installation, but I don't think we're gonna allow the activation. And they're gonna reroute under the culvert to get that crossing
Okay.
complete. Because it's not a good idea. People here in Laredo, they're not familiar with this system. They don't know what it is. It starts flashing red, it goes to solid red. You know, you don't know what to do with that, and it's a
Or somebody.
It's a stop condition. It's not safe. Right.
We have to do a lot of education.
I don't think it's in the right place to start educating people to begin with, right there.
Yeah, the turn on
It's in a bad place. No, but
Any other, I know you guys were gonna take some from the different districts to go over. We didn't get any this month, right?
Yeah, it was just a question.
Okay, just that, okay.
Having no other items, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Second.
Well, again, thank you very, very much for your time. I think you have things to do, a lot of the things.